Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema and sees a couple of things a week, rates them out of 5, stays at home on various streaming platforms, sees a couple of things, rates them out of 5, and figures out where money has been better spent this week. My name is Tosin and I am your host, and joining me this week is one person from the Isle of Wight, and it is Shaun Harris. How are you doing, Shaun?
Hello, everyone.
We're just gonna kick on, and this might be chaotic. We might have people join on. We might have Sharon. We might have Holly join us as we go along. But we're gonna kick off with just the two of us, and the Two Musketeers, the prequel to that the sort of like less known prequel or the first draft of Alexander Dumas's book.
Toes, if you could be a musketeer, which one would you be?
Okay, now you see. With the Musketeers thing, right, my introduction to the Three Musketeers was a thing that strayed very far from the book, and it was the Disney 1990s version of the Three Musketeers that had Kiefer Sutherland, Charlie Sheen, and Oliver Platt in it.
Right.
Yeah, those were the Three Musketeers, and obviously, and had Chris O'Donnell as D'Artagnan, and Tim Curry as Cardinal Richelieu. But I think out of all of those, we always wanted to be Porthos because Porthos was the Joker.
So did I. I don't know why. Why do you think it's Porthos? I would have been the same.
Because Porthos is a Joker. Porthos is a Joker.
Yeah,
he's the one who sort of like enjoys life and everything, and I think a lot of it had to do with the performance of Oliver Platt. The performance of Oliver Platt in that film. He makes Porthos larger than life, and he makes Porthos this guy that you just want to be your best friend. It's like Aramis, the way Kiefer Sutherland played Aramis. Aramis was like, it was a no humor, too serious kind of guy.
Yeah.
Too serious kind of guy. I think so it's Arthos, Porthos, Aramis. No. I think Charlie Sheen was Aramis because he's the one who was a priest. Either way, it was always going to be Porthos because of that. Either that or D'Artagnan, because I think at the age we sort of like identified a bit with D'Artagnan of this young kid who gets in there and everything like that. But if it was from the actual people who are actually musketeers for most of the runtime, it would be Porthos. All right, cool. But anyway, what have we been watching this week? Let's kick off with this. Let's kick off with what have you been watching in cinemas this week, Shaun?
Okay, well, I went to see Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
And but a long old film. And I went to see John Wick Chapter 4, long old film. And on the streaming platform,
longer old film.
Yeah. Longer film, yeah. And on the streaming platforms, I've watched quite a bit of stuff, but I managed to pick up, which I was quite surprised. It was just, you know me and my historical epics, and I was on YouTube, and this film come up called The Lion of the Desert, which had been, Italy had banned it for a lot of years. So that's the one I'd like to do today. I've seen a couple of other things, and I have been watching the football. So.
All right, cool, good stuff. And I have seen Dungeons and Dragons in cinemas. I saw Dungeons and Dragons, and at home I have seen. I did mention. Oh, that's it. Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez and Timothy, and Josh Duhamel. They have similar hair. Timothy Olyphant and Josh Duhamel. So Shotgun Wedding. Shotgun Wedding. All right, cool. So those are the four things that we're going to go through unless somebody else pops in. So let us kick off with Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, because John Wick has been out a couple of weeks. This week, Dungeons and Dragons is the big release, I would say. And so Dungeons and Dragons, when you hear that name, everybody kind of knows that name. It has been around for ages. It is a fantasy sort of board game that most people think is about geeks who play this in their mum's basement. If we're going to go with sort of like, an American thing, because in the UK, not many mums have a basement. But so that's what. Over the last couple of decades, it has seen a greater acceptance. I think because of Stranger Things, there's a lot of people who you think is cool, like Vin Diesel and Joe Manganiello, who come out and say no, they love playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they talk about like the thing that brings everybody together and all that. And this is a film that when I first heard about it, I thought bad idea.
They've made quite a few, haven't they? Haven't they made like quite a few of these, or they've made attempts at making them.
The last attempt of doing a live action Dungeons and Dragon had Jeremy Irons as this sort of like Grand Vizier type character and everything like that, and it was rubbish. It was rubbish. I think that the best thing that I've seen before this of Dungeons and Dragons on the screen, there was a Saturday morning cartoon of Dungeons and Dragons that I used to watch on TV in Nigeria, and that we thought was brilliant. It was 80s, everything like that. The sort of like Saturday mornings 80s cartoons in the heyday. They did a Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. Thought it was brilliant. Thought it was absolutely brilliant. But so with this, when they actually came up to make this film, I thought, bad idea. I thought this was going to be a bad idea because why are you going back there? You've tried before. It hasn't really worked. Then I saw the first trailer of this film, and the trailer of this film made me go, oh, if they're going for that tone, they could pull this off. This could work. And I'm going to go ahead and just give a spoiler for my review and say, in my opinion, they pulled it off. In my opinion, this really, really worked. I don't think it's very rarely recently that I've seen a film that I feel has flowed from beginning to end, where I'm just kind of sitting there going, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, obviously you have to do that, but I'm enjoying this. And the storyline, the plot, do we really need to know it? I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, we have Chris Pine, we have Michelle Rodriguez. You meet them, they live in this fantasy world. She is kind of like the muscle, he's kind of like the brains, and they used to be part of this group of thieves. They try to steal stuff, and they escape prison, and then mostly what happens is that this film becomes a heist movie. And then you have this whole thing where we need to go here to get the helmet of blah, 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 and we have to go to the blah, blah, blah place to get the blah, 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 blah. And they have all these things that they put in, and they put in all these because... And I really wanted to speak to somebody who actually plays Dungeons and Dragons. I wanted to speak to somebody who actually... You play, Shaun.
Well, I mean, we're talking... I wouldn't say I played, but we did attempt to play many, many years ago. I mean, we're talking many, many years ago when I think it was like something like the 3rd edition or something like that. There was a few of us. So, I mean, now that must be on about the 97th or whatever edition it is. But yeah, and I have to say, I can understand there was enough in this which would have pleased anybody that was into Dungeons and Dragons. They would have pleased. And they had this thing. Remember this book? So there was a guy, what was his name? I can't remember his name. But anyway, he had the book. And then he also had this monster manual. And I looked at the monster manual with all the things, and I used to love it, and they'd have all the things. So a lot of the things in the movie, I mean, 2 in particular, there's like a maze scene.
Yes, the maze, the maze,
okay. And there's like a Black Panther thing with things, which is called a displacer beast. So it is an actual, and it's a thing that pops up, and it can be quite dangerous. If you get them young, they can be like little cats, and they can become like a wizard's familiar or whatever. And also the gelatinous cube is a thing. And I'm sure the gelatinous some of the dragons were from something or other.
Yeah, because this is the thing that I wanted to get right, because the one of the best things about this is that it made me want to get into Dungeons and Dragons. If for no other reason, because I wanted to figure out, okay, what were all the references that I missed? Because this is just a good film as far as I'm concerned. It's a good film. If you know nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, you do not have to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. It's just a good film. And it's what I wanted to ask people who'd played it, because I have a friend who actually does a lot of D&D, and like on Twitter you see her, Shamini Bunda, she actually dresses up as the characters, and they have like video things of the campaigns, and I don't get it. So I wanted to speak to her, and apparently she got invited to the premiere of this film, because I guess it's because of her D&D connection. She got invited to the premiere and she didn't go. I was like, what are you playing? What are you playing at?
Did she think it wasn't going to be very good then? Was she of the opinion that it wasn't going to be that good, or do you think maybe
I haven't spoken to her fully about it. But I think reading between the lines, that's probably what she thought, because now she feels like she's like, oh my god, I'm kicking myself, bad life choices. And I can understand, because when I heard they were making a Dungeons and Dragons film, my first thought is, no way that's going to be any good. That was my first. I was like, there's no way it's going to be any good. This is going to be Hollywood messing something up that they don't understand again. But they, I think in terms of writers and directors, they chose people who know their stuff. So I feel like there's a lot. I actually want to go onto YouTube and find all these videos that are all the Easter eggs in Dungeons and Dragons that you missed, because I know I missed all of them because I didn't get any of them.
Well, those are the two those two I mentioned. the Displacer Bits and the Gelatinous Cube are actually, I mean, they were around when they were part of the. Oh yeah, and there's the chess thing, like a mimic thing. If you play, because basically how the thing works is you have someone who's a dungeon master and he decides he like places his thing, and those mimics they like normally mimic chests and things, so that there's quite a few of them about. They could be nice things, but because people are like, oh, I need a rune or I need a spell, and there might be something in this chest.
You've picked it up and you have been eaten by the chest, which was actually a mimic. So the thing is, and I don't know for sure, but I'm not sure if this works, but the film is almost, it makes me feel the way that they were just going like, oh, you have to go and get this thing, you have to go over to this place, you have to do this thing, you have to use this spell to, but, and guess what, you had this with you, and it was a hither-thither staff, and it had all these things in there. It made me wonder if it works that what you're watching is somebody's campaign. So it
probably, yeah.
Yes. So what you're watching is somebody's campaign, and there's another friend of mine, Al Norman. He wrote a play a while back, all based around people playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And while you saw on one corner of the stage, you saw people playing the game, and on the rest of the stage, you saw the game that they were playing being played out by actors, like being like paladins and all that sort of. And that made me think about this film, because this film could have gone down a sort of more meta thing where you saw people playing the game and then you saw people in the game. But it just actually, so it made me think this actually works. It's a bit like how in The Last of Us, I'm like, it's kind of like how you have all these, so like, obstacle of the week thing that comes up in The Last of Us. And I'm thinking that's kind of like mimics the levels of a video game. It makes me wonder where this whole thing kind of mimics a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So what you're essentially watching is a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I don't know. I wanted to speak to somebody who knew more about it to find out about that. But it works.
I think again, the maze scene, there is another group, isn't there? Or a couple of groups.
Yes.
There's another couple of groups that like, and I mean, there's one group in particular that looks like you could imagine almost probably the cartoony ones with the pointy hat, wizardy sort of stuff and all that. Saying you were watching a cartoon? I wondered if that was maybe what it was. I mean, I don't know because I didn't see the cartoon. I was aware.
Oh my God, you might be right. You might be right. There's a bit of them in a cage, and
that's the ones. Yeah.
Oh, good. That might be the cartoon characters
with the wizard's hat.
There's one of them with a wizard's hat. There's one of them with a bow and arrow. There's one of them opens up. Oh, good Lord. Okay, now I'm thinking I might have to go watch this thing again. Yeah. Because, but it is essentially, okay, I'm just going to end up going like this if we go for much longer. We want to try and keep this review short. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was one of the most fun times I've had in the cinema this year. I thought it flowed from start to finish. I thought everything worked. I thought the thing between the characters worked. I thought when like Regé-Jean Page, when he shows up as this paladin, I think he works brilliantly. I think it works. And they just all sort of spark off each other. Everybody has something to do. There's nobody that you look at. I think Hugh Grant is having a lot of fun in the film, and I'll just this is a big massive 4 for me all the way from beginning to end. Massive 4.
I know. I have to say that I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I know it was long, but it didn't particularly seem that long. It didn't. I mean, for me, it was good, and I enjoyed the ride, and I thought it was really good.
That is it, Shaun. That is it. It's a ride. It's like a ride. It's enjoying a ride. That's bang on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to check out that little maze thing again, because I'm pretty confident. As I say, I never saw the cartoon, but I was aware of it, and they were like a little group all huddled together, and it was the wizard's cape thing with the
there was a wizard with a wizard's cape, and he used to go into his hat and bring things out of his hat, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. But essentially, this is the kind of film that it's just over 2 hours long, which by today's standards isn't that bad. Unlike the other film in cinemas that we're going to be talking about this week. But so I really enjoyed this. I would say, guys, if you haven't seen it, go watch Dungeons and Dragons. And Shamini, what were you thinking not going to the premiere? Come on. Come on. Oh man. Yeah, never mind. But we will shelf that and we will move on. And now we go over to Netflix and stuff, and that is going to be, we're going to talk about The Lion and the Lion of the Desert. So Shaun, tell us about this.
Okay, well, I came upon this, like one of the great things with YouTube. I quite like YouTube. You can go down and they do have full-length feature films. And this come up this line of the desert, and I sort of thought, oh, this looks quite interesting, and I played it, and it's like it was a film that was made in Libya. I think Colonel Gaddafi put up all the money to make this film, and it's got a couple of big stars in it. It's got Ollie Reed. It's got Ollie Reed.
Oh yeah.
And oh right, okay, yeah, no. So it's got Oliver Reed and Anthony Quinn, and basically it's the story of in Libya, the Italians tried. They had, I think, Somalia, didn't they, and places like that. And so this is obviously it's been in Libya. It's been 10 years of like conflict and that, and then Mussolini, the rise to fascism. He says, right, I'm going to send over my best general, General Grazzini, who played by Oliver Reed, who just plays Oliver Reed really. But so I think he must have just probably turned up for the paycheck. So yeah. So anyway, and then it's basically the mechanized thing. So they've got like early. They're not really tanks. They're like armored cars with machine guns. The Italians, and they start with the aircraft, with the biplanes and stuff, and they start. So it's basically a history, of conflict in Libya. And it starts off at the beginning, give you a brief synopsis with all the the history of it all, what it's all about. So basically, it's about Anthony Quinn as this leader, this Berber Libyan Arab leader that is fighting this war. So it's more primitive weapons fighting the more mechanized army than what I used to. So that's basically it's just all about the strategy. It's about the battles that took place. So obviously I'm going to enjoy this.
Yes.
And so yeah, it was about the battles and about the nastiness of what they did. There was obviously they bombed. There was a particular like a massacre thing that they bombed and shot and so on and so forth. So
is a conflict between Libyans and Italians, or different factions in Libya?
Yeah, Libyans and Italians. It's basically Arabs. It's the Arabs, Arab tribes fighting against Italian colonization. And
I gotcha.
So they've basically been. So it's colonial one. It's before the war, and so it's obviously Mussolini wanted power, so he decides that he's going to stop this nonsense once and for all. There's a bit like I watched this Yugoslav. It's funny. I watched the Yugoslav movie with Yul Brynner, which was similar along the same lines, called The Battle for Yugoslavia. It was titled, but it was based on this book, The Battle for the River Nerka, which was in Yugoslavia, where all the different Yugoslav partisans were fighting the Italians and the Germans. Anyway, yeah. So basically, it's a history, a part of history. But what I really liked about it is, I think they must have really, whoever did the costumes and the planes and the armored cars and everything else, obviously
the set design and all that.
It felt very period and looked very like the uniforms, because again they had colonial troops as well, and so it was all seemed very, very authentic from what I was aware of. I'm not hugely au fait with the Italian, military and things like that, but it looked good. It looked period. It looked really good. And what was quite interesting, I read in the thing that it was actually banned in Italy up until, I don't know, 2019, I think. And
wow.
Only get on a streaming one, because it doesn't show the Italians in it.
I'm guessing that it doesn't show the Italians winning. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think it was more that some of the atrocities, So although there's not like blood and violence, but I think it was just like, especially when they totally destroy this village, they totally devastate this village. And
I find that a lot of European countries have tried very hard to sort of like kind of ignore their colonial past. No, we never went somewhere else and tried to take over.
But anyway, so on the whole, I quite enjoyed this movie, and it was pretty good. So because I thought I was going to think, this is an unusual thing. Libyan made movie. It's got Oliver Reed, Anthony Quinn. Rod Steiger plays Mussolini, and he played Mussolini a few times actually.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah. He's played a few. He's Rod Steiger. Yeah, he's played Mussolini a few times. But anyway, So for me on this one, I'm gonna say, I want to give it a 4.
Ooh.
And I think I am. I'm going to give this one a 4 because I liked it. I liked it. It felt authentic. It felt real. Ollie Reed, I think, was, being Ollie Reed, not really. So I think he must have just been there for the old paycheck. But I mean, Anthony Quinn played a great part. And so it seemed pretty authentic to me. So I'm going to have to say give this one a 4.
The Lion of the Desert. That's 4 stars, which is probably the highest rating we've given to anything that was bankrolled by Colonel Gaddafi.
And you can get it on YouTube. The whole film's on YouTube. So.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. All right, cool. So now let's go back to cinema and let's talk John Wick Chapter 4. The 3-hour fourth bit of the John Wick thing, which we spoke about last week. And I was listening to a show last week, and I remember saying, if I had a chance to see one film in this next week, and it was a toss between Dungeons and Dragons and John Wick, I would go for Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Partly because of the runtime, because I think 3 hours. I'm sorry, but I am at that stage in my life where I have to sort of weigh up the time I spend in the cinema with time spent with family and kids. And I'm
sure. I totally understand that.
I'm like, 3 hours, man. Come on. I've got stuff to do. But Shaun, that's why we have you here. You are the trooper who will go and who will go and do these things. So John Wick Chapter 4, is it worth the 3-hour runtime?
Okay, so John Wick Chapter 4, I'll give you a brief synopsis of what the film's about. It's funny enough, as we were talking about the desert, about Libya, it takes off. John Wick, he's off in Morocco, and he kills a member of the High Table. So basically, the High Table get this chap to, he's like a real nasty one, to say, right, okay, we're going to kill, no matter what, we're going to kill. John Wick's got to go. He's done something really, really bad. And what they do, you've seen the first John Wick, haven't you?
I've seen the first 3, and I think I said the third one tried my patience, because when you mentioned the High Table, and you mentioned the High Table, and my first thought, I'm just kind of like, I cannot be bothered with this nonsense, because the third one, I'm like, didn't we do this High Table nonsense in the third one? Didn't we sort it out? Yeah. Didn't they go to the desert already and do some stupid nonsense that made no difference to the story? Why the heck are we still here? But anyway.
So anyway, they decide that because they decide to destroy the hotel in New York, like the
Continental
Hotel, Continental, and obviously the manager and the concierge go to see this nasty guy, and he kills the concierge and machine. Anyway, so basically they destroy and then John Wick's hiding out in Tokyo in another hotel, and there's a big shootout with and then Donnie Yen turns up with them. He's like, it's funny with these characters, because there's ones that are good and they sort of help out, and there's also another, I can't remember the actor's name, but I quite like him. He's got a dog. And but anyway, so basically he's got this. So basically he's excommunicado, and he has this big fight, and there's people after him and all that. So it's all the same. This is slightly different in that, normally I'm very, very, I don't know, they call it anal about things that are really silly and all that. And
the things that don't make sense, yes. You like your films to make sense.
This is more like, should we say, choreographed and dance. There's some love. It's different in a same sort of way. There's still plenty of violence, there's still plenty of shooting, but what a great soundtrack. And there's one bit later on in the film where it's the Warriors, as Jesse goes, okay, here's a message for all you people out there with a John Wick has got. And I mean, have you ever seen the Warriors, Toes?
I have seen the Warriors, yeah.
Okay, so
can you dig it?
Yeah.
Hello, Holly.
Hiya, Holly. How are you, mate? You all right?
Sorry, I'm late. Very late.
But anyway, so there's this scene. You go, and then all these all the different people that are going to kill him, and there's absolutely fantastic. But the baseball furies. So you got all these gangs. You've got one's in cars,
in the
and
Warriors,
instead of baseball bats, they got pump action shotguns, and they pick up the pump action shotguns, and they're sort of throwing it like that, and it's just and the Turnbull ACs they're giving I mean, it's...
okay, look, Shaun, let me tell you what I'm expecting from this film. What I'm expecting for this film is I'm expecting the plot to be absolute nonsense. I'm expecting the plot to be absolute nonsense. I'm expecting the action to be great. I expect that the action is essentially going to be like action. Okay, now we need something to link us to the next action piece. Okay, blah 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 blah. Yeah, here's the thing of the thing. And here's a blah blah blah. Here's a coin. And action. And that's what I'm expecting from this film. But the problem is, I don't know whether I think at 3 hours, that's going to wear very thin very quickly.
Well, no, Toes, I would have thought the same, exactly the same. But I sat through this film. I don't know if it was the soundtrack. I don't know if it was because it was more. It's certainly more choreographed. It's certainly more. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like the kung fu films where everybody waits to sort of come in, and I am aware of that sometimes. Like, you know, there's like 300 people, and they're all waiting their time to.
It's like, okay, I'll just wait. Oh no, he didn't do it. I'll do it now.
My turn. In fact, I think there's even one bit where it's like where the Sacre-Cœur. So a lot of it takes place in France, and so I recognised a lot of the places, obviously. And what I really liked about it is it didn't take itself seriously at all. It was not serious, so I was very forgiving of it for that sort of things. And as I say, I had some real laugh out moments in it. And yeah, I mean, it is lots of shooting. It is, and I thought exactly the same. I thought John Wick 1, John Wick 2. Haven't we had enough John Wicks? But I think they've sort of left it. I can't see there being another John Wick now, but there is they put the Donnie Yen side of it. I don't know if it's because of the Chinese money, but there's a little post-credit scene with.
They will find a way. I know there's already a film called Ballerina being made with your previous actress of the moment, Ana de Armas. And you know in John Wick Chapter 3 there's a scene with ballerinas, and when the ballerinas are being trained as assassins. So there's a film called Ballerina that's going to be about those ballerinas with Ana de Armas being the ballerina. So it's still in the John Wick world. That's already been shot.
So I guess there's going to be a John Wick universe, isn't there? There's going to be a John Wick universe.
They're going to find a way to continue, and I'm going to. This is Shaun. Everything that you've said about this film, all you've done is convince me to watch it when it comes on home. When it comes at home, I'm not going to the cinema to watch this. Because I'm just. The thing is, I'll tell you how bad it is, right? Because usually most films, when something comes out, like I remember, like the last Bond film, when that came out, I was like, quick, gotta go watch that before I want to avoid spoilers. With this, I saw a pitch that says, where does John Wick go from here on the Empire website, Empire Movie Magazine website? And I wasn't even bothered. I was like, yeah, I'll just read it. Spoilers, don't care. So it shocks me a little bit just how much, I think, when you talk about the universe and everything like that, the only thing I am here for in John Wick is the action. That's the only thing I'm here for.
Well, there's plenty of that, Toes. Plenty of that, and I was at the same mind. I thought, oh right, okay, it's going to be more the same. It is more the same, but it's done more balletic and more
stylishly,
more stylish. Yeah, it's not so much the brutality of like in the first one, it's pretty brutal, isn't it?
It is.
There's not so much of this. There's still there's some great characters, and for the scene, as I say, for that tribute to the Warriors, I had a big, huge monster grin on my face. That was ecstatic, and I thought, because that bit where the first, the ladies talking, here's a message for you.
The radio host,
and you just have all these, like all the gangs getting ready, and as I say, and it was just the shotgun scene with the. It was just out of throwing the baseball bats. So it's just, and then it's just mayhem around the Arc de Triomphe. It's just like all sorts of people just wouldn't be able to take that. Knocked down, spun over, spun around, up in the air, landing, 50 feet, and still getting up. Great stuff. So
So how many stars?
I had a real good ride with this one. I really enjoyed this film. Didn't seem like the 2 hours 50 minutes or whatever it was, so I'm going to give this one a 4-star as well. I'll give this one a 4.
So 4-star rating for John Wick Chapter 4. Hello, Holly.
I would say I've never seen any of the John Wick films, but I kind of feel like now would be a moment to start, given this has been very well reviewed. I'm not necessarily in the cinema because time is short, but it seems.
We'll watch number 4. Number four is probably, I would say.
I think one or two are pretty good.
Yeah, one's great, two's great,
three.
I would say we know 3 is always there.
Yeah, I think there's a thing in X-Men 3 where he says, "Oh, you always know about, you know what they say about the third movie and the franchise."
Yeah, but it's true. We all
Okay.
know.
Okay, so Holly, thank you for coming here because we had one more thing to talk about before we went off. But is there anything that you wanted to bring to the table?
It will have to be a very brief one, but I watched my recent viewing was the documentary on Waco on Netflix, which
Okay,
made
cool, good. You guys talk about it. I'm just gonna go make sure that a child isn't yelling out in pain.
yes,
Is that David Koresh, the Waco thing?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I've seen a couple of things like that.
and it was. I mean, this is really more of a discursive one, I suppose, than the in-depth. It was a really interesting documentary because I knew the tiniest bit about it because everybody knows. I say everybody. Everybody knows that Waco was a thing, but
is it like one of those docudramas, or is it an actual
it was
documentary?
it was very much a documentary, but it was done in the same style of the Murdo murders. A lot of really interesting interviews with people, and actually I found it quite thought provoking because it started the sort of the position of it is it was a religious sect, and they are spun off from Seventh-day Adventists, and a lot of my family are Adventists. So
is that so? Yeah, what, the Seventh-day Adventists are we talking about?
So
yes, Seventh-day Adventists. Aren't they an offshoot of the Jehovah's Witness?
No, they're completely separate.
I mean,
wildly. It's all very, very confusing.
I think they believe in the old horns and that, don't they? That thing with the horns and the vials and Seventh-day Adventists. I'm sure. I mean, I did spend in my younger years. I did spend a little bit of a time sort of going to different religions to see, like Mormons, JWs, Seventh-day Adventists. So yeah, I found them quite close to the Jehovah's.
Yeah, they're. I mean, they're very much based on a lot of, closer to Judaism. The founding is thoroughly bizarre, and I always try not to sound too eyebrow raising, but it involved going up a mountain and having visions, and then everybody going up the mountain to the end of the world, and then the end of the world came down the mountain and carried on regardless. So, I can see how it's,
So anyway, so Koresh is an offshoot of.
So they are. He's generation 2 of an offshoot,
right?
And was firm in his belief that he was he was Jesus returned.
Right.
Just running over the brief background of the religious positions of Waco, and so he was a second generation Seventh-day Adventist offshoot who believed he was the Messiah, which is never a great place to start. And he, his followers were already off being unusual, and they continued to be unusual together, and he built up that sort of classic closely sect type sect cult type environment.
Yeah, pretty much he built up a cult.
And with the obligatory everybody's going to be my wife and all sorts of things. And really
there's just no originality when it comes to making a cult nowadays.
I know. It's all
it's either money or sex, I think, isn't it? That the leaders
both is acceptable too. And it's a lot of what they talk about is the siege and the people who died. And you get interviews from people on the sort of police FBI side, and the interviews from the people who were there, who in most cases were very young at the time. So I think one would question the quality of, one might question the quality of their memories, but you see all of this sort of balance of, kind of, who started it, and the fact that ultimately it's a very interesting situation that runs over sort of sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's one of these things that has gone into the public consciousness ever since, because I know I heard about Waco, and I heard that it was being used in TV shows and in films as, oh yeah, it's a Waco, oh yeah, David Koresh, oh, he's the drink the Kool-Aid guy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, that was another one. That was another
Yeah,
one.
that was the other one.
David
No.
Koresh was the one that ended up in a massive firefight.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
he's firefight guy.
Yeah.
But
So,
but
you hear it all the time, and every time if like Waco has become like a byword for crazy cult person.
And actually, Waco, I think in my head was drink the Kool-Aid guy as well.
Oh yeah.
So it required watching it to be reminded, which form of appalling cultism were we dealing with here, and how are we planning on people ending up dead? But his aspiration appeared to be less about everybody ending up dead if things didn't go the way they wanted. And there are all sorts of questions, it seems, about with the massive fire, whether or not it was started deliberately or accidentally by people in the house or the compound, or was it started by the FBI? And you get to the end, and I don't feel that I'm spoiling things in any way, with two different continuing two different sides to the discussion, because people aren't ever, and probably rightly, brought into the same room, because that's with something like this it would be distasteful, I would posit.
So was this on Netflix?
It was on Netflix.
Is this a recent production, or was it done a while back?
No, this is the new one.
Okay.
There have been others, unsurprisingly, because
I just have to say here that there is a 2011 film called Red State, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's a fictional one, obviously, but
that's the Kevin Smith film.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, because we've got the rapture and everything in it. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
So it's a sad watch. It's interesting, but it makes you feel sad.
Oh, okay, because I'm thinking you saying that getting to the end, and it's a case of there's still two different sides where people are saying no, they started it, and I'm thinking that if it was a recent thing, it's kind of like of our times right now. You're talking about America, and it wasn't that long before that you had one figurehead person who had a whole bunch of followers who went and attacked a government building. And until today, you have some people who don't care what evidence you're presented with. This is what happened, and this is who was at fault. So it's so the fact that it comes to the end, and you say that there's two different sides, I actually think that that's probably about the only conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
Because if they came to a point where everybody went, now we think back on it, we were wrong. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, except everybody looks back on it and they were definitely right. And the main takeaway is that it was absolutely tragic. And people died, and for children, I think the majority, if not all, had been let out, had been taken out, and was staying in a sort of foster place, a children's home, and some very young, basically watched their families die.
Yeah,
and rightly or wrongly, whoever started it, it's the tragedy of children basically losing their parents is horrible.
Okay, and I feel like we're getting perilously close to our true crime discussion again, and as to whether this is just exploitation and whether it should be allowed to happen. But that's already happened. We've already done that, and so I'm going to move on from that and just ask you how many stars would you give this?
I'm going to go with 4. Actually, it didn't feel exploitative. Though classic true crime. We'll come back to that another day.
Yeah,
the nth time. But yeah, I would say 4. It made me sad. I would recommend watching it, but only if you're prepared to feel sad about what's ultimately a massive tragedy. That wouldn't have happened if you weren't dealing with somebody who was somewhat unhinged, but with the there's a lot of what ifs and maybes with such things, but it's sad. It's sad, but it's well done, it's well considered, and it does make you actually think about both sides of people's perspective as to what happened. And it makes you think, it makes you feel, and you understand that everybody on both sides of it is really sad. and traumatized by it. So it's
okay.
Think.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Holly. Thank you very much for that, Holly. And so now we get on to our final thing, and this is on Amazon Prime. And it is, you will be happy to hear, a lot cherrier. And this is Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel back in rom-com territory with a little bit of action stars thrown in on the side. This is Shotgun Wedding. And Holly, I think you would love this as a, oh, my brain needs a rest. Ah, yes, this is exactly how, this is what...
Yeah, Jennifer Lopez films just set my teeth on edge, though.
Oh, have you seen Hustlers?
Yes, and I liked Hustlers.
Hustlers is good. Yeah, Hustlers is good. But so this is. I mean, okay, Shotgun Wedding. I think you can almost sort of see the pitch meeting for this and how, you know how they say, oh, imagine blah blah blah, like in a blah blah blah, imagine blah blah blah, and I think in this one they probably went, okay, imagine like Romancing the Stone mixed with Die Hard at a wedding. And that's pretty much what you have in this film. So the idea is that you have Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel's characters, whose names I cannot remember, it doesn't matter. And they have gone to somewhere in the Philippines. They've gone to somewhere in the Philippines for a destination wedding. And they are on this place where they have the whole island to themselves. And as they are going to... So on the day of the wedding, they have a little bit of an argument, and so they go off on where they're not sure, are they going to get married? You get to meet and this has to do with the fact that her ex-boyfriend shows up at the wedding, and her ex-boyfriend is this sort of perfect guy played by Lenny Kravitz that her father absolutely loves, and he can't get her father to like him because her father thinks he's just after the money and all that. So all that also far also rom-com, but then on the day of the wedding, the wedding gets ambushed, and there's these pirates that show up. So this supposedly Filipino pirates show up at this wedding and ambush them and take everybody, put everybody in the swimming pool, and they're like, right, cool, that's it. Give us your money. Okay, and now we want your bank account details because we want 50 million pounds and all that. And then what ensues is Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Lopez essentially having to become action stars and save their wedding and save all their guests by going around and picking off these terrorists one by one. And that's your film. That's what happens. I mean, I think it's a good watch. It flows quite well. I don't think it gives you anything you don't expect. It's like there's some things that's supposed to be twists in the film, but you kind of see them coming. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I think it's aware enough to be like, yeah, we don't expect you to be surprised by this being the twist. All we know is that it's Jennifer Lopez. You like watching Jennifer Lopez? Watch Jennifer Lopez. It's Josh Duhamel. He's quite a nice guy to look at. He's got some charisma, and he can actually banter and go back and forth with Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, watch him. And what more do you want, people? What more do you want? It's pretty much what I can imagine this film saying. So it is a dyed-in-the-wool 3-star film. It's like one of those films that when you hear it, you go, like, this is 3 stars. This is 3 stars, and it can only go down. It's not going up. It's not getting elevated. They could do everything perfectly in this film. They could have it's not going to go past 3 stars. I mean, for it to go past 3 stars, they would have to do something absolutely out of this world. It's not going to go past. So it doesn't mess it up. It's a 3-star film. Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel are fun to watch on screen. The supporting cast is kind of cool. They have Cheech Marin in there, Rita Moreno's in there as well. You've got Jennifer Coolidge. You have you have Kaylee.
To say what doesn't have Jennifer Coolidge at the moment.
At the moment, yeah. No, I have a feeling that with Jennifer Coolidge, and I may not. I feel like Jennifer Coolidge has got to the stage in her career that when they send her a script, she just looks at where they're going to film this thing. And if there's going to be sun, sand, and a beach, she's there.
Yeah. And then she gets to play Jennifer Coolidge.
And then she just gets to go there and be Jennifer Coolidge on a beach. So I'm thinking, obviously, she's in the White Lotus. That's on the beach. She's in this. That's on the beach. There's one other thing I'm thinking of that she's in that I've seen her in the trailer for. And I'm pretty sure it's Sunny. So
no, there was the one that I reviewed ages ago that I cannot remember the name of, that was to do with creepy people in
Oh, The Watcher.
House in the Sun. Thank you. She was in that, and there wasn't a beach.
Oh yeah, no,
Very
that
nice
was kind of
weather.
like New England, wasn't it?
But it was lovely weather. It's very pleasant. So if you wanted to break from the beach,
yes. Well, okay, and I sincerely hope that I am not doing the legend that is Jennifer Coolidge a disservice by this, but I personally think that at the moment she's in it for the holidays. So
and good on her.
She has earned enough. She has earned the right to say, where is it filming? Do I get a good holiday out of it? Can I bring my dog? So it's like,
who can argue with that?
Yeah. So I think this is a 3-star film. It's a romantic comedy. It's kind of like Jennifer Lopez romantic comedy, but it is probably on the higher end of the scale of the Jennifer Lopez romantic comedy. Probably I'll put it above something like The Wedding Planner or something like that, or Made in Manhattan. But that is it.
I'm not a lover of either of those.
Well, but if you want to see them do a little bit of John McClane at a wedding, a little bit of Die Hard at a wedding, it's pretty much what this is.
That sounds preferable, but to say Hustlers, I liked that. I feel
Hustlers is a very good film.
I feel is the peak of J-Lo films.
Well, that and Out of Sight, I think, are probably her two best films.
Yes, I will.
Hustlers and Out of Sight are films that I'm like, yes, Jennifer Lopez. Can we have more of these, please? Because you're amazing in these. Well, all right. So that is it from me. And now we had 2 things at cinemas. We had 3 things at home. And we have taken an average. So who do you think, on average, have we've had a better time with this week? Cinemas or home viewing?
Well, Ollie, do you want to go?
Okay, having missed the cinema ones, I'm going to go cinema.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that because there was free for streaming services, I reckon cinemas pipped it by like 0.75 or something along that region. Not by very much, but
until Holly came along and gave Netflix and Friends a shot in the arm. She gave them Friends a shot in the arm, and that took it to, we have a difference of 0.4. Of an average of a 0.4 of a star. And that is, you're right, cinema has given us a good week this week. We have had a good time in the cinema, even though Shaun spent over 5 hours in the cinema this week.
5 hours, wow.
So checking then, D&D worth watching, I take it.
D&D is absolutely worth watching. Dungeons and Dragons is absolutely worth watching.
We like Dungeons and Dragons.
we liked it a lot. Fun. Yeah, and
high on my list of.
Honestly, it is such a fun film. It's such a fun. I mean, Shaun used the perfect word. It's a ride. It's a ride of a movie that the like of which I haven't actually felt that way in the cinema for a while. Where just watching it, and just going.
I have to agree. Yeah.
You're just going. Oh yeah, this goes from there. That goes from there. That goes from there. I'm with you all the way. Come on.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah,
and they're nice characters. They're all. I mean,
they're brilliant characters.
Yeah, the characters are really cool.
And this is coming from somebody. This is coming from somebody who has never actually played the D&D before, so know nothing about it. Pretty much know nothing.
I remember the cartoon very fondly. Just saying.
Yes, I remember the cartoon as well. Okay, this is where we realized that pretty much we're the same age. So
we already know, to be fair.
Yeah, I remember the cartoon as well, and Shaun just said something. If you listen back to our review, Shaun said something that made me think, oh, hang on a second, that might have been that could have. Now I think about it, that was a reference to the cartoon. That there's an Easter egg to the cartoon in there. But but anyway. So until next week when God knows what's on the cinema, I might go watch Dungeons and Dragons again if there's nothing on. It's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us. Get in touch with us on Twitter. Oh my God, Marcus, I forgot to mention your thing again. Marcus, keep listening. Eventually we will read out the tweets that you have sent us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus.